going to read a little from One with Others, a little book of her days. I've done a number of documentary inflected projects over the last 20 years. I'm sure much of it had to do with AG at my back. And in particular, this quote has been something of a mantra for me from Let Us Now Praise Famous Men. If I could do it, I do no writing at all here. It would be photographs, the rest would be fragments of cloth, bits of cotton, lumps of earth, records of speech, pieces of wood and iron, files of odors, plates of food and of excrement. Booksellers would consider it quite a novelty. Critics would murmur, yes, but is it art? And I would trust a majority of you to use it as you would a parlor game. A piece of the body torn out by the roots might be more to the point. My book is a tribute to a woman I met when I was still in my tweens. Tweens? What are those? I was never in my tweens. I was... when Randolph was in his tweens, and I was in my 20s. This is a totally iconoclastic, irate, hilarious woman with a dazzlingly literary, smart, self-taught intelligence, living in the Arkansas Delta with her husband, with whom she was profoundly incompatible, and their 7 children, which didn't make it easy to extricate oneself. So when her town exploded, as many of the towns did in 1969 in the aftermath of Martin Luther King's assassination, many of these little towns in various forms underwent very serious crises. And so over racial divisions, of course, and she stepped up, stepped forward, crossed over, so to speak. So ultimately, my book became a reckoning with those times through the warped lens of that particular historical moment and that exact locale. And I will just read a few little passages. It is a sort of work in entire, and not even enough to really kind of lay in the patterning, which is one of my favorite things about writing. But at least to give you a sense of kind of source material that can locate a text in an interesting, or hopefully interesting way. I may repeat your quote. Some names were changed or omitted in light of the interpreted nature of this account, others because they still live there. People may have been rendered as semblances and composites of one another, and others spoken into being. Memories have been tapped in newspapers consulted, books referenced, times fused, and towns overlaid. This is not a work of history. It is a report full of holes, a little commemorative edition, and it aspires to the borrowed tuxedo lining of fiction. In the end, it is a welter of associations. Up and down the towns in the Delta, people were stirring. Cotton was right about shoe top. Daylilies hung from their withering necks. Temperatures started out in the 90s with no promise of a good soaking. School was almost out. The farm bells slowly rang for freedom. The king lay moldering in the ground over a year. The scent of liberation stayed on, but it was hard to bring the trophy home. Hard to know what came next. One thing, and one thing only, was known. No one wanted to go home dragging their tow sack. No one wanted to go home empty-handed. Over at the all-Negro Junior High, a popular teacher has been fired for insubordination. For a derogatory letter he wrote, the superintendent saying the Negro has no voice at all. It was the start of another cacophonous summer. It smells like home, she said, dying. And what's that you smell, V? And V, dying. The faint cut of walnuts in the grass, my husband's work shirt on the railing, the pooled barbecued evening, the turned dirt. Even in this pitch, I can see the vapor-lit pole, the crepe myrtle not in shadow, my sweet Betsy, that exact streaked sky, that mongrel dog being pelted with rain. Mine eyes pelted, all fear overcome at last, no scent. That's what she said, dying in the one-room apartment in Hell's Kitchen. I came in by the old road from Memphis, the old military road, across the iron bridge. No one in the field, not a living soul. I drove around with the windows down, the red buds in bloom, a sky, a discolored chenille spread, weather generally fair. The marchers step off from the jailhouse at Bragg Spur, 8:17 a.m. More police than reporters, more reporters than police. I park in a spot of shade and walk around, downtown half shut down. Cotton gin still going, not strong, but going. Tracks working, neglected, but working. The infamous overpass brought down. September 15, 2004, Hell's Kitchen, her life surrendered to her body. September 15, the day Padre Hidalgo uttered the famous grito that kicked off the Mexican Revolution. She would have liked that, going off the air on a day marking a great struggle for independence. The river rises from a mountain of granite. The river receives the water of the Little River. The house where my friend once lived indefinitely empty. Walnuts turning dark in the grass, papers collected on the porch. If I put my face to the glass, I can make out the ghost of her ironing board, bottle of bourbon on the end. The only sure thing were the prices and the temperatures. 2 pounds of oleo cost 25 cents, and 5 cans of Cherokee Freestone peaches are $1. The Cosmos Club president held a tea at her lovely lakeside home. 2 more Big Tree boys make fine soldiers. A rolling stone was found in the bottom of his swimming pool. Rufus Thomas and his Bearcats will headline at the Negro Fair. And Miss Teenage Arkansas, a comely young miss, is saluted once again for her charm and pulchritude. Sunshine Fresh Hydrox cookies, 1 pound for 59 cents. The assistant warden at 300 pounds is the one identified for administering the strap at the Arkansas Pen, a self-sustaining institution. Several say they were beaten for failing to meet cotton quotas. Others, more often than not, did not know why they were beaten. One testified to more than 70 beatings. The strap is not in question. In question is when it is to be administered. The river is impounded by the lake. Below the lake, the river enters the lowlands. It slithers through cypress and willow in the air itself cloudy or clear, stirring with smoke or dust or malathion. If you get my drift, must not be construed to be indivisible, no more than blood. There is black blood and white blood. There is black air and white air. This includes the air in the tires blowing out over the interstate between town and river, the air that riddles the children when a crop duster buzzes a schoolyard, the air that bellows from the choir of robes when the very reverend pillow bids be seated, and even the air socked from the jaw of the champ, born 17 miles west in Sand Slough when he took that phantom punch, the year in which this particular round of troubles began. Today, gentle reader, the sermon once again, segregation after death. Dear Abby, when Daryl and I were first married, he asked me to iron his undershorts. His mother always did. At first I didn't mind because we had no children, but now have 2, and I could save a lot of time tossing them in the dryer and folding them. But I tried that once, and I never heard the end of it. Daryl says he could feel the difference. What would you do? Dear Too Much Ironing, I would iron his underwear. You are wasting more energy complaining and arguing than it takes to iron 7 pair of shorts once a week. Everybody has a problem. What's yours? Atmospheric washes of sound, play it muddy, play it freaking loud. Lights sputtering and crackling. The only sure thing in those days were the prices. Jack's Brett tea bags, only 19 cents. A whole fryer is 59 cents. A half gallon of Purex, 25 cents. 2 pounds of Oleo, 25 cents. Ivory soap, 10 cents a bar. Cherokee Freestone peaches, 5 cans for $1. And the temperatures. Los Angeles enters its 6th day of rioting, 32 dead. Chicago's rebellion ends in 2. KKK's lawyer dies in Birmingham. Hurricane Camille sacks past Christiane. The president of the Cosmos Club holds a tea. Soybean cyst nematode puts the county's crop under quarantine. 3 Brinkley children die in an ice box. It's time to pick the cotton. The ethical this, what we really want, says my friend Harry, is to get the present in the present, that which is not this, to feel and transmit. The felony logs for that period are mostly devoted to burglary and grand larceny, bad checks, attempted escapes, embezzlement, possession of a machine gun for aggressive purposes, possession of 3 machine guns. A man killed his wife with a hammer. A man found in possession of a 50-gallon mash barrel and cooker. And one poor fellow was popped for having unnatural relations with a cow. The biggest hit is Al Green, and the biggest hitter is Sonny Liston. The Silver Fox kind of stalled. A Quaker protesting the war in Vietnam has set himself on fire in front of the Pentagon. He dropped the baby out of harm's way before he flicked open his lighter. Phoenix is burning. Dear Abby, friends of ours have a son who has gone the hippie route. When we inquire about their children, they have others who are married and one who is in the service. Should we ask about their hippie son? Or should we just not mention him like he is dead? We know that they are pretty sick about the life he leads. Dear needs to know. Knowing that your friends would be humiliated or embarrassed by the mention of their hippie son, don't mention him. Everybody has a problem. What's yours? Wonderful.